extensive representation has also changed. Currently, a water conservation district would be required to hold an election if they want to reduce the size of their board. This is very costly and impractical. SB 235 would allow a district to reduce the size of their board's membership from 7 to 5 members with a 2/3 vote of the board. SB 235 provides adequate public notice and protections to prevent abuse of this authority. Finally, this bill will allow districts to reduce their costs and operate more effectively. This bill is supported by ACWA and the California Special Districts Association. I am joined by current board member of the San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District, Melody McDonald, to answer any questions.
Very good. Before we do that, if we could move on to establishing a quorum.
Smythe.
Here.
Alejo. Bradford. Here. Campos. Davis. Gordon. Here. Hueso. Here. Knight. Norby.
Here. Campos
okay.
Here.
Campos here. Okay.
Very good. If you would, please, your witnesses in support.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. As stated, I'm Melody McDonald with the San Bernardino Valley Water Conservation District. I bring you best wishes from John Longville, who chaired this committee in his first term in the Assembly, 1999 to 2000, who is currently a colleague on my board. And we are most grateful for his help in helping us, our agency, reduce our finances, because current law currently does not allow our board to save money by reducing our own size on our own. This would cost our agency a significant amount of money. It would be cost prohibitive to even try to do that. Most of our water agencies in our area now have been are 5-member agencies, and we are one of the few 7-member agencies. So we're looking to reduce that as well. So, and I'm available for any other questions.
Thank you.
Iris Herrera with the California Special Districts Association. We appreciate the hard work from the author on this bill, and we urge your aye vote.
Very good. Any other witnesses in support? Opposition? Any questions or comments from the committee?
I'm curious on who would draw these new lines if you go from 7 to 5. Would the board themselves draw their new districts?
Currently, we're going to be, with the census, we have to redistrict anyway, so we would be, we work with agencies to get those drawn. So, and we have to be represented geographically with the amount of people that's there. It's not so much the size of the districts, but the people that are represented in it.
Good. Any other questions? Mr. Norby?
The members are directly elected?
Correct.
In staggered terms, 4-year terms?
4-year terms.
3-4, 3-4?
3-4, 3-4, and we are odd-year election.
Okay. I mean, if there's 7 or 5, doesn't matter to me. One thing that jumps out at me is that the 7 may vote to get rid of the 2 they don't like politically, and that's why I'm not sure how that would work in the transition phase. If this was an appointed board and the JPA members agreed to reduce their representation, that'd be one thing. But since they're directly elected, I'm not sure how this is going to work, because you could have 5 members voting to reduce it to 5 and a 5-2 vote, and then they vote to draw the line so the 2 they don't like are eliminated. I'm not saying it's going to happen necessarily, but are there 2 guys who designated themselves as the ones who are going to step down that this would happen?
Yes.
And even if that's the case, I'm not sure what kind of a precedent this would establish.
One of our oldest long-standing board member, 40 years, just retired. We just did an appointment on that, and they have to stand for election. They've already filed, and there's 3 of them running. We actually had former Assemblyman John Longville offer to step down. He and 2 others. This is not where you can off somebody if you're not happy with them. Basically, we've had a unanimous support from our board to do this reduction.
And it's my understanding, Ms. Norby, that it would still require a 2/3 vote of the board to do that as well.
Yes.
So that provides an additional layer.
In fact, the bill came to us from Mr. Longville with the agreement that that's what they would do
Yes.
with the current sitting board. So it wasn't like anybody would be taken off, Mr. Norby. It would be
All right.
that they are all in agreement currently.
Right.
So the elected members now are in agreement.
All right, now help me with math, Mr. Chair. A 5 out of 7 vote would still be a 2/3, right? I'm getting 70% here.
Our budget chairman's in the audience. He can probably help us better with the math. And
I could see a unanimous vote. That way, if all of them vote to do it, and it seems like the board unanimously wants to do this, then maybe that's something that you'd consider. Not that my vote's going to make it live or die.
No, they cannot do it just by doing it themselves. They have to have legislation.
Yeah, but the bill could say with unanimous consent of the board as opposed to 2/3. 2/3 just sounds a little tricky, like the 5 could play against the 2, if you understand what I'm saying. That's my suggestion.
and
Well, currently, they're unanimous.
Right.
So,
my other question is, I know that in my part of my counties, Ventura County, they can do it, but they're doing it. You have to do it with the vote of the people, as opposed to the board shrinking that they have the authority to do it. But theirs says to do it with the vote of their district. Is there any reason why you chose to do it as a board as opposed to doing it as a vote of the people, where
because the cost would be exorbitant.
Yeah.
would it though? I guess, but could you not put that on when you have a normal election, anyways? I guess that would be, you could attach, the question, when one of your, on a regular board election, and then have another item. Would would the public allow the board to reduce it from 7 to 5? And so I don't know if you can address that a little bit.
I think in my opening statement, what I said, that the region has changed so drastically, where we were once very, very suburban, very, very rural. Now it is no longer rural. That was the fastest growing district. So the need for this many board members and the need for conservation districts has really shrunk.
Currently, with the 7-member board, and an election would run about $80,000 per district. So it'd be over $600,000. We just wouldn't do it. It would be to recap that cost. To put it to election just would not make sense. So,
I guess I don't understand how, because you would. Is that because because it's staggered, so you would have to have a special for those other 3 districts? Would that?
right. I have been appointed the last few years. I think I've only had to stand election once, maybe twice in 20 years. Currently, we have 3 members that were up, and only 2 are appointed. They don't have opposition. When I was up 2 years ago, there was 4 of us up, and 3 of us were appointed, and only 1 had opposition to it. It just isn't a real.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Norby, and then I'm sorry.
It sounds kind of like the Vernon City Council, only you have real voters. It's just that none of them care enough to run, right? Okay. I'm probably going to support it, Mr. Chair. This will only happen once. I mean, because once they're down to 5, they can't vote again. So with the situation they have, if they'd have said unanimous vote, since they have unanimous support, I'd be more comfortable. But I understand the cost would be minimal if you put it on a regular election, but that's not going to happen until next year. Plus, there still is some cost that they're going to charge you. It won't be a lot. This would only apply to this specific district, correct? Okay, good.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you.
I do, and Mr. Norby asked the question, but this specific district or just conservation water districts or water conservation districts?
Just this district.
All right, okay.
Well, no, I think it's any 7-member board.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry,
So-
I'm correct. This applies to water conservation districts, but there's only 4,
Including us.
including them.
There's 3 others.
3 others.
So what the chairman stated as it relates to any 7-member board or just 7-member water conservation boards?
7-member water conservation boards. So this would apply to 4 districts
Right.
statewide, I believe.
4 statewide. 4 of us have 7-member agencies. There's 3 others beside us.
All right. Again, if there's any other questions?
All right, that opens up a little bit, because I thought it just applied to this. What do the other three say? Are they aware of this, or they care, or?
We have no opposition to it. Chino Basin is in our area. They are one of the conservation districts in our area.
All right.
Yeah, we have no opposition to it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Senator, you may close.
That's for your aye vote.
Very good. Is there a
Thank you
motion?
for the question.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Very good. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass. Smythe?
No.
Smythe, no. Alejo? Alejo, aye. Bradford? Bradford, aye. Campos? Campos, aye. Davis? Gordon? Gordon, aye. Hueso? Hueso, aye. Knight? Norby?
Aye.
Norby, aye.
The measure is out.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, members.
Good. Our next sign-in, Mr. Blumenfield. As Mr. Blumenfield is making his way up, if we could have a motion on the consent calendar. Thank you. Please call the roll on consent. And very quickly, it is item number 3, SB 112, item number 5, SB 288, item number 7, SB 668, item number 8, SB 947, and item number 9, SB 948. Please call the roll.
Smythe?
Aye.
Smythe, aye. Alejo? Alejo, aye. Bradford? Bradford, aye. Campos? Campos, aye. Davis? Gordon? Gordon, aye. Hueso? Hueso, aye. Knight? Norby?
Aye.
Norby, aye.
Thank you. Consent calendar is out. Item number 1, ACA 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. I rise today, or sit today, in favor of ACA 4, and it's about local infrastructure. Most local infrastructure in California was put in place more than 40 years ago, and they're showing severe signs of aging, and in many cases are no longer sufficient to serve our expanded population. We're basically suffering under crumbling infrastructure, and it's estimated that California needs at least an additional $500 billion for maintenance, repair, and upkeep of our crumbling sewer, storm drain systems, streets, sidewalks, overcrowded, out-of-date police stations, jails, fire stations, and libraries. Investing in infrastructure creates jobs, generates economic activity, and allows businesses to thrive. ACA 4 will allow local government to pass general obligation infrastructure measures for much-needed repairs, maintenance, and upgrades with a 55% majority, the same as we give for school construction. Several years ago, the voters agreed to this two-thirds threshold was too high for repairing schools, and by popular vote, they lowered the threshold to 55%. This bill will basically do the same for infrastructure. $1 invested in infrastructure creates a $7 return on our economy, providing jobs that can't be exported, and allows us to have more tax revenue for schools, public safety, and other vital services without having across-the-board tax cuts or tax increases. Basically, this bill will simply allow voters to determine for themselves the level at which they wish to fund projects to enhance the quality of life in their communities. And I've been working very closely on this bill with a unique coalition of labor, local government, and business on this ACA, and respectfully ask for your aye
Move
vote.
for approval.
Very good. We do have a motion and a second. If we can move to witnesses and support.
Mr. Chair, members, Cesar Diaz on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. I'll be very brief in my comments. Mr. Blumenfield had a good job here at illustrating the need for our infrastructure investment. Just want to note that school construction, when they lowered it to 55%, they now have an 80%, actually greater than 80% approval for passage of these bonds. When you look at parcel taxes, those are two-thirds. There's less than 50% of those that actually pass. So this is very important for infrastructure, very important for the building trades, and we respectfully urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Tim Yarian, representing today the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, the Association of Orange County Deputy Sheriffs, the California Fraternal Order of Police, California Narcotic Officers Association, the California Police Chiefs Association, the Long Beach Police Officers Association, the Los Angeles County Professional Peace Officers Association, the Los Angeles County Police Chiefs Association, the Los Angeles Police Protective League, the Los Angeles County Probation Officers, the Riverside Sheriff's Association, Sacramento Deputy Sheriff's Association, and the Santa Ana Police Officers Association. We're in support.
Very good. Your time is up.
One brief comment on this, and thank you very much. I think with the current realignment, the need for infrastructure redevelopment of our jails, our probation camps, and public safety facilities is critical. And I think this is a very important vote, given the fact that we're going to be looking at taking somewhere around 33,000, adding population of about 33,000 at the local correctional level. So we urge your aye vote on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Christina Dillon DeCaro, representing both the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, the major wastewater agencies, and the California Library Association today. I will truncate my remarks and just say that with regard to the libraries, the last statewide construction bond measure that the state passed was in March of 2000. And when we passed that, we authorized $350 million in library construction grants. That was used up in 5 minutes' time. And as the chair has indicated, the need has just grown by leaps and bounds. The state library did a needs assessment for us. We have $5.6 billion in immediate need for library projects, and the need just keeps growing. So to the extent that you can look favorably upon this bill today, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. If we could just be brief with the rest of our witnesses in support.
Jeffrey Neal, representing the California State Association of Counties, in support.
Thank you.
Iris Herrera with the California Special Districts Association in strong support.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Christy Balma, representing the California Professional Firefighters in strong support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Ralph Hine for the Fire Districts Association of California and the other special districts listed on your analysis, also in support.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition.
Christopher Carlisle with the California Association of Realtors in opposition to the bill. The authors made a great argument for the spending. We just don't think that that should be borne by homeowners. This is a societal need, and it's as I said, he's made the argument for that type of spending. It just shouldn't be borne solely by homeowners. And for that reason, we ask for your no vote on this bill.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Chairman, members, good morning. David Wolf here with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and we're opposed to the bill. Obviously, we're opposed because we believe ACA 4 represents a repeal of an important provision of Proposition 13, that being a two-thirds vote for most bonds and all special taxes approved on the local level, and parcel taxes as well. We believe, obviously, maintaining this threshold is crucial for a number of reasons. First of all, due to the 30 or 40-year nature of bonds, these very long-term debt instruments should require a supermajority vote of the people, since they will be in place long after local officials and others have termed out and left office. And it's also true, since only property owners pay these bonds and parcel taxes, and yet everybody, including renters, gets to vote on them. And again, for that reason, we believe a supermajority is also important for that reason, because homeowners are the ones that have to shoulder the fiscal burden of these measures. Again, waters down Prop 13's 1% cap. You see oftentimes in your property taxes a 1.2 or 1.3 property tax rate. That extra 0.2 or 0.3% is precisely due to these bonds and parcel taxes. And to the extent that these continue to be approved with lower vote thresholds on the local level is the extent that property taxes go up in the worst foreclosure crisis in 70 years. And it's also the reason why, according to the Tax Foundation, we are 14th. California is 14th in per capita state and local property taxes. 14th. Everyone's like, oh, Prop 13, we got to have some of the lowest property taxes in the country. We don't. We're 14th. For this reason, we can't justify this measure. We ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Very good. Any other witnesses on the bill? Questions from the committee? Mr. Norby.
General thoughts as to why I'm not going to support it, and the author can respond, or anybody can respond if they want. The 55% figure, I'm not really sure where that came from. I know with schools it's at 55, but and so there's a consistency argument, but I don't know why it wouldn't be, say, 60%, which is easier to figure out mathematically, or a simple majority, which would still be a majority, but be lower than 55%. It seems that some of the proponents are saying that with 55%, you get more of these being approved. They cited 80% approval at the school level. 80% approval is high, and if you're for passing 80% of the bonds, I guess you'd be for that. But there is an argument to be made that when bonds are passed too easily, there isn't the discipline there as to how to sell these to the public, and there isn't the accountability. If you've been following the LA Times article about LA Los Angeles Community College District, the huge bond that was passed and a lack of oversight, and the very substandard construction was done because of lack of oversight. In my own district, I was on the Board of Supervisors, Anaheim Union High School District passed a bond with a 55% threshold, and there was so much money that was approved, they weren't able to manage it properly, and a lot of it was really not managed properly. So I think the argument can be made that at a 2/3 threshold, there's more public accountability, there's more discussion, and the money will be used more wisely. Even with a 2/3 threshold, I'm getting different figures here, Mr. Chair. I see here that in the last 12 months, 9 of 13 were approved at a 2/3 majority, which is about 70%. Someone said it's really about 50% or slightly under that. But that's still a substantial number being approved. People will vote for these if they know what they're getting and if they know there's going to be oversight over the expenses. Somebody mentioned library district. Last statewide bond was $2,000, but cities themselves and library districts, if they exist, or a city can have a local library bond. It doesn't have to be a statewide bond. In terms of sanitation districts, these are really things that ought to be paid by ratepayers rather than out of property taxes. Now, the property tax payers, if they're homeowners, and the ratepayers are pretty much the same because most property owners have toilets and they use the sanitation district. But getting this to a rate structure as opposed to taxes is probably a better thing to do. I do sympathize with the fire districts. Independent fire districts are the most vulnerable to tax increment takeaways, and they're losing a substantial amount of their property taxes now to redevelopment tax takeaways, and they need some of that restored, but hopefully we'll look at that this term as well. So I'm comfortable with the 2/3. I think it provides a higher level of accountability, and I am concerned that a lot of these that are passed too quickly and too easily have led to a lack of accountability that we've seen at some of the schools. And the real issue isn't just in terms of a lot of these agencies' infrastructure, it's also operations, which just does not address. Thanks.
Very good. If there's any other questions, Mr. Bloomfield, you may close if you want to address some of the comments.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. I mean, the accountability issue, I think, is a separate one. I'm happy to work with you on making bond measures more accountable. But in terms of the need to lower the threshold, I don't think it's even an arguable point. I mean, look, we are literally living on crumbling infrastructure that was put back when our current governor's father was in office, is when most of the infrastructure that's out there now was put in place. And one of the reasons why business has been excited about this proposal, and why I'm working closely with a lot of business groups on this, is because they realize that infrastructure drives our economy. You can't have, back and forth movement of goods if the roads are full of potholes, and you can't, it drives our economy, it drives our quality of life, all of those things. So I think, and I don't think you're arguing against the need for the infrastructure. I think we could all stipulate to that, and the report that came out under Schwarzenegger's administration showing the $500 billion backlog that we're suffering is sort of proof positive, at least at the tip of the iceberg on that. In terms of the 55% versus 60, in terms of saying the math may be easier without a calculator, but we can figure that out, the 55%. Just like 5 out of 7 board members, we can get there, 71.2%. So that one doesn't bother me so much. I'm really more worried about how do we get this economy going, how do we make it easier to build the infrastructure that we have, and with that, I would ask for your aye vote.
Go ahead and call the roll.
The motion is to adopt and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Smythe. Alejo. Alejo, aye. Bradford. Bradford, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Davis. Davis, aye. Gordon. Gordon, aye. Hueso. Hueso, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Norby.
No.
Norby, no.
Very good. The measure is out. Off to appropriations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Liu. Item number 2, SB 62.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members. This is a district bill to prevent property sale fraud and protect homeowners and renters in Los Angeles County. This bill is identical to SB 878, which passed this committee last year and received no opposition. Unfortunately, Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed the bill. The bill is sponsored by the LA County Board of Supervisors, and there is no opposition. When the county records a notice of default or a notice of sale for a home, the property resident will receive a timely warning in the mail. This will alert owners and renters about potential fraud and give them more warning about foreclosures. The only point raised in the veto message last year was the part of the bill might be redundant because foreclosure legal notices are already posted on properties. However, the veto ignored a common complaint. Unscrupulous landlords remove the postings, continue to collect the rent, and tell tenants not to worry. And tenants are later evicted with little warning, and the mailings will provide additional notice directly to the residents. So with that, I ask for your support on the bill.
Very good. Witnesses and support.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Ed Behrens on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. The county has operated a homeowner notification program since 1993. The 1996 legislation reauthorizing that program, which passed out of the legislature with a total of 8 votes against it, also reduced the fee cap from $10 to its current $7. Homeowners are notified when a deed, grant deed, or quitclaim deed is recorded, giving the homeowners the opportunity to review the documents and to alert them to forgeries and false documents. Last year, more than 450,000 documents were mailed, and the county departments assisted more than 25,000 homeowners each year with respect to foreclosures and potential fraud issues. A survey card is sent with every notification, and more than 99% of homeowners returning the survey approve of the program. The county has samples and would be more than happy to provide them to you. This bill will expand the popular and successful program to include notification to homeowners and tenants when a notice of default or a notice of sale is recorded. As Senator Lieu noted, this information is necessary because frauds against homeowners in foreclosure have increased, but frauds against tenants have also increased. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Very good.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Corey Salzella on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association. To the extent this helps combat real estate fraud, we're supportive of the bill.
Very good. Any other witnesses, opposition, comments? Thank you. Questions from the committee? Mr. Norby?
This only applies to the county of L.A.?
Yes.
Do the other counties have this issue, or do they care, or would they like to be a part of it?
The Board of Supervisors out of L.A., so that's why I'm carrying it.
Yeah.
No one else has asked us to do this, but
all right.
Maybe
if I may, this was a program that was enacted in 1992 to address problems with respect to foreclosures and criminal activity in connection with foreclosures. As one may recall, in 1992, the state was still mired in a recession. Foreclosures were high, but there was a an unusually high incidence of fraud as well in connection with foreclosures at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. We do have a motion and a second. Senator, if you wish.
simply ask for your support on the bill.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
The motion is do pass and re-refer to the Committee on Judiciary. Smythe.
Aye.
Smythe, aye. Alejo. Aye. Alejo, aye. Bradford. Aye. Bradford, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Davis. Gordon. Aye. Gordon, aye. Hueso. Aye. Hueso, aye. Knight. No. Knight, no. Norby.
Aye.
Norby, aye.
Thank you.
Very good. Your measure is up. Members, we have one more bill. Senator Rubio, who is en route, but without objection, we would like to just allow staff to present the bill. So in order, oh, never mind. Senator, saved your staff from a heart attack right there. So. She was sweating back there, Senator, so.
She was. Mr. Chairman, first let me apologize it is quite difficult traveling from the good town of Bakersfield. And I had to find a last-minute flight to get me up here. It was pretty tough. But nevertheless, thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're here to hear item number 6, SB 325.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues. It is my pleasure to present SB 325, which intends to create an authority to ensure railroad service if the Surface Transportation Board authorizes the abandonment or discontinuance of service on existing short railroad operations in the counties of Fresno, Kern, Kings, Merced, and Tulare. You may ask yourself, why is this needed in the Central Valley? Unfortunately, we have encountered in the effort to build our goods movement program in the Central Valley, taking product from field to market, there is a particular outfit that is taking short rail that ties into Class 1 and then moves it east, west, north, and south, and they're abandoning it and recycling it. And so many counties have come together and asked, how can we work with the private industry to ensure that we have goods movement in the Central Valley? We looked at many different options. One issue that was brought up was the issue of JPA, possible JPA. There are good examples of JPAs and bad examples of JPAs, and particularly in the Central Valley, we have several of them where they do not work. And so we thought it was in the best interest of the COGS, the Council of Governments locally, to have something that carries more weight in the form of an authority to go into a public-private partnership with industry to see to it that there is a reliable source of transportation for goods to tie into the Class 1. With that, we have a number of witnesses here that would like to testify, and I would just leave you with this note. The San Joaquin Valley, unfortunately, rivals and competes with Southern California, particularly Los Angeles, as to having the worst air in the entire nation. If there were ever a time to get trucks off the road and put it onto short rail, it is now. And this particular project, I believe, is going to move us towards that direction. So we... Thank you very much. I'd respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Very good. Witnesses in support.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Phipps with Kern Council of Governments, sponsoring the bill. The Central California Rail Authority is intended to provide a structure and mechanism, and this is very important, of last resort. This is not it is not our intent to get into the rail business. This is about preserving air quality and infrastructure and rail corridors. And so this is a mechanism of last resort to prevent additional short-haul abandonments in the counties that have been stated. Otherwise, the reversion of land ownership rights and subsequent environmental review processes create an insurmountable obstacle to reintroducing rail to those corridors. And so we respectfully ask your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, my name is Liz Gomez. I am with California Consulting. Our firm represents approximately 20 cities, 26 school districts, and 2 COGs, including Kern. I am here today in support of SB 325. Our clients tell us that this is a top priority bill for them and could be the #1 piece of legislation to many of our clients throughout the Central Valley. On behalf of our clients, I am here to respectfully request your strong support today.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Garza. I work for Kings Canyon Unified School District out in the beautiful city of Reedley. It's a small farming community. It's about 10,000 population. I represent several cities within that area. We cover 600 square miles. I just want to applaud Senator Rubio for taking the lead on this important bill. We strongly support the bill, and this is a vital link to our farming communities, and we'd like to see that remain for the transportation of our goods. The loss of this link will have a negative impact on our already distressed areas. Some areas are with unemployment rates of 32 to 42%. So the movement of goods on that short haul rail is vital to our survival. Thank you, and we ask for your support on this bill.
Very good. Any other witnesses wishing to testify? Thank you. Mr. Knight.
Yeah, Senator, I'm not real familiar with this, but give me an idea of the broad authority that this new commission is going to have. What powers are they going to have? Where's the funding going to come from? Just issues of that nature.
Certainly, and very important question. The authority would provide the power for Council of Governments to enter into agreements and contracts with private industry to then take private money and apply for grants. So there's no taxing in this bill. There's no fees hidden in this bill. It's simply a joint public-private partnership with private industry to try to pool money together to ensure that there is short rail goods movement between farm and market.
Okay, so a little bit similar to JPA here, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the funding is still going to be, the railroads are still going to be a private industry or privately funded industry, and we're not going to come back to the legislature for some sort of authority for funding at some point.
No, Assemblymember, my Republican colleagues in the Senate stressed that point in committee and on the floor, and it was our assurance that this is not a effort to get your foot in the door, if you will, and the commitment, it's nowhere in the bill. Those are not the intentions. This is a concerted effort to have a public-private partnership, and as such, it's received bipartisan support through the entire process.
Okay.
Yes. Sure.
I just had one concern, because you did put several restrictions about getting Transportation Development Act funds, public transportation account funds, and I know other jurisdictions who have tried to acquire rail lines for freight purposes, were able to get funding, several $1 million from the State Transportation Commission. Would that prevent you from getting these other possible funding sources that will help you meet your goals? Are you putting in language that would constrain you from even pursuing those types of funds from the State Transportation Commission?
Thank you, Assemblyman. In the same committee on the Senate side, the issue got brought up between goods movement and passenger rail. And many of these dollars that are made available for passenger rail, the committee at the time felt it was more appropriate to go down the path with non-passenger rail, just freight. And in a first step effort, that's where we're going this legislative year with this bill.
Well, the example I was going to give is Santa Cruz County, for example, was trying to preserve I think it's the Santa Cruz rail line. The county was an effort to try to acquire it, preserve it for freight purposes in Santa Cruz County, and they were able to get $14 million worth of funding approved. So I'm saying there might be other transportation funding sources that perhaps you're already carving yourself out of being able to even pursue those funds by having these restrictions that it's specific transportation dollars given out for these types of projects. Is that limiting you in this way?
That in our original draft of the bill included the ability to apply for those funds. Concerns were raised in the Senate over whether we would take money from passenger rail projects, take it to freight. So in an effort to win bipartisan support, we accepted that amendment and removed it from the bill. I agree with you. We should go after every penny and dollar that we possibly can. But in an effort to have a bill and an authority that focuses on freight and good movement, we made it very narrow in subject.
Very good. Seeing no other questions, Mr. Norby, I'm sorry.
It's sad to see abandoned rail lines. As a rail fan, I think all of us have an emotional attachment to trains. They represent this perfect marriage between power and freedom, but also security, because they stay on the tracks. When I hear I live about a mile and a half from the main line, Santa Fe line, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, and Fullerton. When I hear that late at night, it's soothing. And if I didn't hear it, I'd know there's something wrong with the economy, and I hear it maybe 3 or 4 times an hour. But at the same time,
Norbert, what's that noise?
Two longs are short and a long when they're approaching an intersection. Now, if they're approaching another train, it's just one long until.
Is that a goose or a train?
That is the Burlington Northern Santa Fe main line, Fullerton to L.A. to Chicago through Fullerton.
Am I allowed to put that on YouTube, Mr.
You're welcome to, yes.
We are on tape today. We are televised, so that will live forever.
But at the same time, the history of government support for dying railroads is a history of literally billions and billions and billions of dollars thrown away to support a technology which is the market is just no longer justifies, and that could also be applied to to failing auto companies and a lot of failing industries. And so I'm very skeptical when we talk about a railroad authority. And I'm skeptical of this one as well and probably can't support it. I did sit on a transportation authority in Orange County, the OCTA. We also owned an abandoned rail line. Now, these lines are not yet abandoned, right? There's just a threat of abandoning. I mean, the trains are still operating, the tracks are still there, right? Or are some just right-of-ways without any trackage?
Well, Assemblyman Knight, and I appreciate you bringing up that subject because these are not dying lines.
Okay.
These are very viable, active. Some of the largest proponents of this bill are industry, oil and agriculture, who need these lines, but much to their dismay, a particular outfit who now operates and has a monopoly of the short rail in the San Joaquin Valley is ripping it up and scrapping it for reasons that I would not suspect here, but simply say that that is a fact. So they have joined together with the Council of Governments to try to create an authority to sustain these very viable lines. They're not dead. They're not even in the ICU.
Okay, then I'm missing something. You're saying they're viable, they're thriving, but the company is going broke and is going to sell them.
They're not.
What am I missing here?
They're not necessarily going broke. They have, in two instances that I'm very familiar with, one, raised significantly the tariffs and fees and the cost to hold cars at particular sites. Without showing their financials, without talking with the feds, and as a result, whenever the activity slows down on the line, then they petition the federal government to scrap and do away with the line. And so businesses are saying, grains, different agricultural outfits, particularly oil companies, refineries throughout the San Joaquin Valley are saying, we want to use these lines, but we do not feel there is an adequate partnership with this one company. So if they try to abandon a particular line that still has great viability, allow us to at least as a last resort, join together with Council of Governments.
Are they trying to sell the line to
No.
another major railroad?
No, they won't even put them on. They scrap them and recycle them.
So just out of spite, because they don't like the companies, they're going to do something against their financial interests. I'm just not able to put this together here.
I believe it has been communicated to me that it's owned by a large hedge fund on the East Coast. This is an effort to push stock prices. We saw similar trends in Oregon. Now they've purchased these lines in California. And so this is our effort as a last resort.
So the authority would buy this from the company, right?
Correct.
And so it is on the market.
No, it is not. It would be only after they petitioned the federal government to abandon the line, in which then this authority would have the ability to step in and purchase the line.
All right, nobody else wants to buy it. No railroad companies, no consortium of businesses in the San Joaquin Valley want to buy it, so the government would be the purchaser of last resort.
Actually, that's not entirely true either. There have been interest from other short line rail companies, but there hasn't been the willingness to sell to other short line rail companies. The situation that we're talking about, there actually have been abandonments. We just saw an abandonment where the track was pulled up for scrap when scrap prices were at their height. To sell it, and that corridor was lost, 30-mile segment between northern Kern County and into Tulare County. But the concern is that was an attempt, again, when scrap prices were at their absolute height, to drive up the stock price during a point in the recession when the company was looking to appease shareholders.
Okay. Sounds
And
like
so-
we had to
and
get
so-
Frank Norris on this, but he's been gone 100 years, hasn't he? Wrote The Octopus. This was originally a Southern Pacific operation. It's always been a short line.
That I'm not entirely sure of. I believe at one time it was Southern Pacific.
Okay. I'm not sure what you need from us that you can't do on your own. When I was with the OCTA, Orange County Transportation Authority, we had rail issues. We purchased a line which Burlington Northern Santa Fe operated between the Fullerton Junction all the way down to the county line, San Diego County line, and operated. We had an abandoned line, an old Pacific Electric line we were trying to revive and look at something to do with. The only other knowledge I have about a rail authority established by the state of California is the North Coast Railroad Authority, which has spent literally tens of millions of dollars and has done nothing other than just apply for more money. It doesn't operate a railroad. It really doesn't do anything other than make promises in the future. And this is a similar railroad authority. And I guess my last question is, why do you need us? Why not just do it city, county, JPA? Because once we get involved in it, then it becomes partly our responsibility. I'm sure you'll be back with other issues.
Sure.
If we are, through the chair.
I would say for two reasons. We need you to approve this authority, I would say on two fronts. One, when you have an authority, you have then the access to tap into potential future funds that you otherwise would not. Second, and this is the most important, when we sat down with the private sector, actually when they brought this issue to us, this isn't an issue that government took to the private sector. Industry brought this issue to us and asked, could they partner together in an effort to solve this problem? When we discussed the many options on the table, the experiences at the local level, and they may be unique to just the Central Valley, and I'll give you one case in point. There is a JPA between the city fire department and the county fire department. It's not worth its weight on paper. We constantly have issues. What they read about in the newspaper is that the JPA is not working, so they felt if they're going to front capital, make substantial investments in the capital projects that will be needed to build or then maintain into the future, they wanted something that carried more weight, and whether it is true or not, they felt this was the most appropriate path. Therefore, I'm coming to you to seek your approval of this authority.
Thank you, Senator. If you'd like to close on that.
This is a bipartisan effort to try to solve a problem back in the Valley and a true public-private partnership, and I'd respectfully ask your aye vote.
Very good. We do have a motion in a second, I believe. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
The motion is due passed, and we refer to the Committee on Transportation. Smythe.
Aye.
Smythe, aye. Alejo. Alejo, aye. Bradford. Bradford, aye. Campos. Campos, aye. Davis. Gordon. Gordon, aye. Hueso. Hueso, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Norby.
No.
Norby, no.
Very good. That measure is out. Members, we'll keep the roll open for Mr. Davis. Those of you that have voted on everything, everyone else is free to go. So we will hold the roll open for 5 minutes.